Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Trail Talk. I am really glad you could join us today. It's Tuesday, and that's a little different day, but we like to mix things up around here a little bit. So we're really glad you're watching us. We are live from the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma, and we have a very special returning guest. This is Nathan Brown. And Nathan, you're here in town right now because you're doing creative writing workshops.
With the sixth graders, yes.
With the sixth graders.
Yeah.
Guys, this is like an amazing opportunity for sixth graders in Duncan, Marlow, and Empire to come here to the Heritage Center. They're selected by their teachers.
Right.
And they come and spend a couple of hours with Nathan, and you what do you do? What do you do with these workshops?
It's very simple. I've been doing this with sixth graders for many years. It started at OU, and I would say we're coming up on a couple of decades.
Is that right?
If you include the OU program, which is no longer going right now at this point. So Duncan's the only place I'm doing it, but I've been doing it a long time. And the bottom line is that sixth graders, I think, just have the best potential to be journalers, to be creative writers, just to begin. It's a great age to begin to learn how to begin to get it out of your system and onto the page. What I've also discovered with sixth graders, though, is that it's harder for them to write out of a vacuum, or to just to give them some kind of prompt with words. Say, why don't you write about this? What I discovered in these museum courses very quickly is that if you get these younger minds to give them something physical, something concrete to look at and concentrate on, and say, why don't you write about that? And so what we do is we go out into the museum and I give them prompts. I say, I want you to choose a painting. And I want you to choose this quality or aspect of the painting. And I want you to write for me the story of what you think is going on. And when they start from a visual prompt, it's absolutely remarkable what happens.
That is,
it's a very, very different kind of thing. And they just start writing. It's amazing. I love watching it.
Do you think part of it has something to do with how visual we are, as just as it's a cultural thing here in the US? I mean, it's right. Everything has to be visual.
Right.
Kids are seeing just millions of things in their eyes, all day, every day. There's very little downtime where you just ponder a thought, that's not being, I don't know, inspired or something by something that you're seeing.
Right. Well, and what I love about this is that this is the bridge to that other quieter side of things. And what I mean by that is they are writing by hand with a pencil in a journal in response to a beautiful, actual physical work of art.
Right.
And I love, there's something very organic and very nature-based, kind of primal. Right. I write by hand in a journal and have all my life. And every book I've ever written was originally written by hand. I've never done it on a computer. I use computers, but I've never done it on a computer. And I know for a fact that I write differently when I write with a pen. I'm going slower, and it gives my brain time to come up with better things. Because I can type way past my mind. Right.
Right. Exactly. So one of my jobs here is to portray an historical character, but I write what I'm going to say. I write the monologue based on, the events or whatever. And I always do it by hand. My poor notebook that I use, to kind of refresh my memory when I change characters or whatever. It's all written by hand. There's something about me thinking it and putting it on that paper, and then when I remember it back, I remember it as it is on the paper. The lines, which words are on which line, and it's like this circle that that comes back. But there is that what is that learning style? Kinesthetic, where you combine multiple senses, I guess, the sight and
Right.
touch to do that. Some of my kids are just, they hear it, they remember it. Others, they have to write it down. It's like a combination thing. But that what you're saying about the students looking and writing, and it is a very quiet, pulled down kind of, I don't know.
My joke is very un-American.
This is true. This is true.
So, yeah.
It's so foreign.
It's like, why don't you slow down? Why don't we be quiet? Why don't you, it's like, and we're in no rush, we're in no hurry. And why don't you write by hand? Why don't you look at this painting for a while and think about it? And I think it's, look, I love technology. I mean, I love, the whole thing,
Sure.
but the absolute inability to slow down and be quiet is hurting us. It's hurting us very, very much. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's when the best thinking happens, the best pondering. That's one of my favorite words, pondering. It's, I love just rolling something around and around and around in my head.
Yes, I'm a taker of long walks. And I consider it one of the most important parts of the creative process is the long walk, where you're not working in the sense that we think of working, because that is when my mind is setting up shop.
Right.
Is on the long walks.
On the long walk. So clearing out.
And can you imagine it? I don't even take my phone.
That is the best move of all.
Right, yeah.
Not taking your phone.
No technology allowed. I'm known for my stone stacking, my rock work. I build dry stacked stone work, which is kind of an Irish, the Japanese practice it as well. It's kind of a thing where you build things, but you can't use mortar. So the stones really have to lock into place because you're not cementing them into place or anything. They have to lock. And it's a very, very slow process. But I have built like castle-like fire pits, some walls 9 feet high, curved structures of dry stacking because I've been doing it for many, many, many years. And I have these amazing, structures now. But it's to the point now where I have people who want to come out to the fire pits.
Right.
When we have a fire pit, they want to come to the party and be a part of the circle and be in it because they want to see it at night with a fire lighting those walls and doing all these things. And I have an absolute no technology policy. You cannot come. You can't come into the rocks with technology. And I've had it really freak people out before. Like they just didn't know if they could do it.
Wow.
Said,
wow.
Can't have your technology.
What a commentary.
Can't do it.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's all the more way to appreciate and enjoy and have a conversation and hear the sounds that are around you and feel the heat and smell and just all 5 senses, fully engaged and not any kind of distraction with, just scrolling or whatever people are doing. So I guess the students are not allowed to have their phones out.
Well, yes, they are. They do put them away. By the way, I was very surprised, very impressed with Marlo today. The teacher, Tara, I think is her name, Tara, and didn't allow them to bring their phones. I was like,
right.
That's fantastic. And they were quiet, attentive. They were awesome. They did incredible work. I mean, we're not looking hard enough at the damage this is doing. Not yet. We need to look harder.
Right.
And I mean damage. I'm using that word intently. We are damaging our lives with this nervous twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So you take the students into the art gallery
Mhm.
and give them an assignment.
Right.
And so are they supposed to write a story or a poem or a?
Yeah, I have 4 or 5 different things, very different things that I have them do. Ultimately, everything I think in creative writing is a story at its base. So whether it's a poem, even a haiku or a poem, tiny, whatever it is, novel, it doesn't make any difference. At the bottom of everything, you're trying to figure out how to write a story, no matter the length. And that's, yeah. So what I do is I do very specific things where I'll choose an aspect of a painting. Like we have an exercise that we do around hands in paintings, because I know that my mom was a painter and an artist, and that hands are, artists take them very seriously, and they are very difficult to paint or sculpt, you know. And so the artists treat them importantly. So I have an exercise that I do entirely around noticing the hands in a painting. And so it's sort of like that, just 4 or 5 specific exercises that they go out and write to.
And what a great thing for them to take away. The teacher's here, so the teacher can reinforce the things that they learn here and maybe practice some of those same things.
Right.
And so you've been doing this for so long. What is your desire? Why do you invest into the lives of 6th graders or whatever age group? Is that your favorite age group?
I love
There's
that.
nothing like a good middle schooler, right?
It's,
I mean,
well, the thing is that 12-ish, give or take 11, 12, 30, whatever age right there. Okay. I remember it well for me. It's an unlocking age. It's an age where they're past a certain point, but they're not to that next level of kind of social shutdown where they become worried and paranoid about being expressive and
Right.
they're still open just a little bit to sort of doing it and expressing themselves. And I will say why I do it, I can very specifically say, and what I would tell you straight out, I would do it absolutely anywhere, anytime, with absolutely any age group. And my favorite is senior citizens, and I teach it everywhere. I've taught that OSHER continuing education courses at OU with senior citizens. I've taught college students creative writing. It doesn't matter where it is. I do, but specifically what we call the creative journaling is what this class is about. Creative journaling. And what it is, I love to teach people who will just give it a chance. You don't have to be a writer. We don't need to be shooting for publication here. Nobody else even needs to see it. But because of the effect it had in my life, and by the way, the conversations I've had with many psychologists, and I mean many psychologists, because I intently ask them everywhere I go and when I meet, and just tell them, I have come to believe that a journaling practice, a private, quiet, personal journaling practice might be one of the single most emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually healing practices that we have available to us that is absolutely free. And the psychologists agree with me. They say, yes, something happens in the brain when you get it out. Get it out. And I mean, I've had people break open before, just tell me years later. It came about the 3rd year, and they tell me the story of what happened when it just broke for them.
Wow.
And so it is my passion. It is my passion. I tell you 2 things. What I love about poetry is its brevity. And I had the privilege a while back of being referred to as the Johnny Appleseed of poetry, that I just drive around the world and spread poetry. Right. Not necessarily just my own, but I mean, I spread poetry. I have a workshop I teach that's titled Poetry for People Who Think They Hate Poetry. Give me a chance. Give me a chance to change your mind. Let me show you some things. This kind of thing, that and the creative journaling. If I could do those 2 things for the rest of my life as a career, I would devote the rest of my life to that.
Really?
Going and spreading those two
Mhm.
things. I consider reading poetry a practice. Because when you find the right stuff, it's life altering. It's just that there's a lot of poetry that people don't like that gets all famous and gets the gold stickers on the books, and it's all academic and nobody understands it. Get rid of that. There's a lot of great poetry that people would love, and it's just something about the boom of it. It's like I love reading novels too, and nonfiction, and I mean I love that, but poetry has this chance of, like, in a moment, changing your day, making your day better. And so those are the two most important things to me. And I'm working very hard to try to figure out how to spread that, both of them.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're very motivated, very driven.
I am.
Passionate.
Very driven. I just drove 4,000 miles to the East Coast and up and around and back, doing house concerts and readings at libraries and that kind of thing, and touring and doing that. So yeah, quite literally driven,
right?
As well as.
It seems like you're really glad to be out and in the world again. Last time we spoke, a little over a year ago, it was still a shut down world. Primarily, I
am a live performer for a living. That's what I do. And so the pandemic was about as painful as it gets. To lose that part of my life. And that's where my fire pit sessions, the live streaming show that I started doing, called the Fire Pit Sessions, that I'll be filming episode 199 tomorrow night.
Nice.
And that's where that came from, is that I was dying. I had to do something. So I started this little poetry and music show on Facebook Live, and it now it's grown into a crazy, fun and wonderful, but crazy thing.
I love it. I mean, that's like Trail Talk.
Yeah, exactly.
We're over 200 episodes now, and it's fun. It's fun. I think we did it we had a purpose. We were trying to give opportunities to artists, performers, a chance to still promote who they are or perform in, not necessarily in front of people, but for an audience. Right. And it just evolved, and we just keep going. And so it's,
I love that. And that is just what it's about, learning how to do that, learning how to adapt, learning how to make it work, those kinds of things. And what I discovered was I wanted to do other formats, other things, whatever. The thing I noticed about the Facebook Live, the streaming thing, was the live comment function became the heart of the show. People in Indiana were saying hello to friends in Norman, Oklahoma. And people in Oregon were saying hi to their friends on the East Coast. People were actually talking, like messaging each other live during the show, and saying, it's so great to be here, and then saying, I love that, and then I love that poem, and then it's just like, and that became the closest thing to community I was able to create during the pandemic. And a lot of people told me that that was their touchstone. They waited for it every week. Wow. So
that's fun. Well, I'm glad you're continuing it. Did you ever think about stopping?
I did last December after Christmas. I thought, I think we're moving into a new year, or whatever. And I basically had a revolt. I had people just like, and I said, oh, okay, well, I guess, if you're enjoying it, I enjoy it. So we'll keep doing it. And it waxes and wanes and everything. And just all of a sudden in the last few, months, the viewership has gone up. And I believe we've hit some kind of thing where people are beginning to share with people that they think would also enjoy this, like just sending it to them directly and saying, you've got to check this guy out. You really need to listen to this. Because my Facebook page just regularly gets new followers. Instead of friend requests, just followers. And people who start following the page. And I've noticed that the viewership now has gone back up again.
Mhm.
So that just makes it wonderful. And it's people I wouldn't be able to commit, to perform with on a regular basis anyway.
Right.
And the other thing is that it's now started to lead to live shows. So I tell people I'm coming to their part of the country. It's like, we want to do a house concert, or I know where you need to play. I know, and
Right.
so now it's helping me book live gigs
Very fun.
when I travel. So
That's wonderful.
yeah.
So the last time we talked, you were working on, I made a note on this, the Vagabond at Large
Right.
book.
Right. So
Is it S books yet?
Not yet.
Or,
And the
okay.
reason is the first book was totally killed by the pandemic. Its release date was February 2020. And so plume.
Right.
The only way you can do a book is to travel, perform, and promote. The system of I'm going to write a book and the whole world is going to find it, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't. And so you have to go, you have to travel, perform. So I've held on to that book. It's called Just Another Honeymoon in France, A Vagabond at Large. And A Vagabond at Large is going to be a series, and that's the France book. The next one that's going to come out is most likely Italy. There will be an Ireland book to follow, and I already have, many of them are already written. And so the idea is we're going to do the second book and take it out into the world and let the first book pony along with it again. So, and do the two together to try to give the series new life. But that is something I definitely intend to do. And a really quick story, the wildest thing about the pandemic was, at the very beginning, this was actually where the live streaming show came from. And that was early on. My wife had a couple of friends on a Zoom happy hour, and they were talking. And one of them said, you know what Nathan ought to do is he ought to put the word out and tell people that if they have this is a crazy time we're living in. So if they want him to write a poem about a certain topic of what's going on right now, to send him a donation of any size and he'll write you a poem about your topic. And that, since we are on screen, I guess I don't really have a choice. I want you to do the visual on this. And the strange, because this is absolutely amazing. So this is the book you were talking about here that we're hoping to revive eventually. Now, I'm going to do, I know time-wise here, I'm going to do this story as quickly as I can, but
you're fine.
I laughed at them, which was appropriate. Yeah, commissioned poems, right? We're going to commission poems. And I thought, what a joke. And I laughed and everything. I woke up the next morning. This was maybe early May or late April of 2020. I woke up the next morning and realized I have absolutely nothing else to do. There's nothing else. I have no way of making money. My career is over. I tell people that in March and April of 2020, I fielded cancellations for the next year and a half. I just watched my professional life blink out on the screen.
Wow.
That was hard. So I thought, well, why? I don't know. I put the word out. Well, the word went out. And because of the weirdness of social media, it started. Somebody would do it and then they would tell their friend, it's like, man, you got to do this. This is hilarious, whatever, And as of the spring of 2021, so year and a half or so, it resulted in this.
4 volumes.
4 books.
Wow.
These are commissioned poems.
Wow.
Of people, and I had an ex-student who donated $15. That's all she had, could afford.
Right.
She was living in an apartment in the Bronx during New York City's darkest hour when it was nothing but refrigerator trucks. And she was scared to go out on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to write a poem about that. She gave me $15. There are other people in here who commissioned 7 or 8 poems, probably given me thousands. Donated thousands of dollars. I actually kind of maintained on people commissioning poems.
Wow.
And I mean, like the last poem in this first book here was the first commission I received from someone who wanted me to write a poem for the funeral service of their spouse who died of COVID. I mean, so these books are chronological. Every poem is dated and in order. And so basically what you have here is you've got a little encyclopedia
Yes.
of the pandemic, but not my story, everyone else's story. I received commissions from Saudi Arabia to the island of Tonga,
Wow.
Anaheim to New York City, Miami to Seattle, Canada.
My goodness.
Who knew?
Who knew?
And so the Fire Pit Sessions, the videos show, streaming, came out of people were wanting to hear me read their poems because it takes a long time to make a book. So I'd written this poem, months before the book could have come out.
Right.
Right. And so I started the show because people wanted to hear me read their poem, online. And so the Fire Pit Sessions is basically a show where I read 2 or 3 poems and I sing a song. I play a song at the end, and
So are you still reading these poems?
I'm reading from there's a 5th book. I'm still taking commissions. I'll go through the end of December. By the way, I'm probably going to permanently do commissioned poetry because I realized there's a little bit of a need there. Now, it's definitely slowed down, but what I tell people is like, you can commission a poem anytime you want to for a donation of any size, because I write every day. I love it. It's fine. Book 5 in this series here is going to be much less anything to do with pandemic, but just sort of life after kind of thing. And I'm still taking commissions for that book through the end of December. And I'm editing that book now as I go. And I'm reading the poems from that next book right now in the Fire Pit Sessions. And when that book is done, I'll do things from my other work and keep the show going because it's just too fun.
Right.
Well,
and there are bound to be you write a poem a day, right? Just
30 years now.
Right. So it seems like you've got quite a source of the poems.
That's what I did is I just changed my daily writing practice into this project. I just switched over to this project. But I mean, at one point there, 2020, I was having to keep lists, like sophisticated lists. Okay, this one's been written. This one's been sent to the person, but I haven't heard back from them yet. This one has bbeen approved. They loved it. This one's okay. And then it's color coded.
Right.
And the final color gray means it's been approved and it's also been read on the show. And I have charts. I had to start keeping charts to keep track. It was crazy.
Are you that kind of, does that come natural, that organization, or is that?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
But I couldn't forget anybody.
Right.
I couldn't miss anybody.
Right.
And I realized, okay, I'm going to slip up if I don't start organizing this. If I don't organize this, I'm going to make a mistake and forget about somebody. And if they're too shy to speak up, it's going to really upset me,
Right.
And so I just figured out. And so what it was is that the Fire Pit Sessions then also became extremely chronological. And the next poem up was the next show. And that was it. It just had to be like that.
Right.
So,
Right. So that's kind of interesting. There are the people who are very creative, and then there are the people who are very, logically ordered, methodical. It's like my husband and I, we're super different about all of those kinds of things. Even today, I noticed we're playing this little bingo game with the kids. They were 2nd graders.
Right.
And I give them these little flat colored discs to lay on the pictures.
Right.
And I look down and there's kids who just have everything, and then there are some who have made little bundles by color. Then there are some who have stacked them by color. They're actually in little stacks. And it's almost like it's rainbow. It's like the ultimate in order for them. And I thought, their little personalities are just being laid out with these little colored discs.
That is so true. It is so true. And my wife is the lister,
Okay, yeah,
and I'm the it'll get done.
right, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I have my own way of doing things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So like I mean, obviously, it's a business. This is your livelihood. This is how you survive,
Yeah.
make money. Did you have to like learn how to do the business? Did someone teach you? Were you able to hire
Well, I
someone?
mean,
to
do you mean
that?
the business part of performing or?
Well, yeah, or just like all of it. I mean, it's like, I know you have to keep records and, schedules
Yeah.
and besides the fact that you're creating things and trying to keep all that ordered and
Yeah.
meeting
Oh,
deadlines.
emails are the bane of my existence, text, email, blah, all that kind of stuff. It's not the way my brain was wired, but I have to keep a calendar. I have to keep it hard. I joke with people. It's like, I keep the upcoming events page on my website so up to date
Mhm.
that I've actually been on the road and had to refer to it to see where I was supposed to go next. What's the next town?
Yeah, thank
That's
goodness.
the next town, But I mean, I own my own publishing company now, and I'll never do it any other way. And I think, everybody has different opinions about self-publishing. I think that whole thing is over now. And the reason is real publishers can't really even do all that much for you. And I'm tired of them taking the money and not doing anything. So I started my own publishing company. I publish my own books now. I've more than doubled my income off of book sales.
Wow.
And it's on Amazon and, and Full Circle in Oklahoma City carries them, and Book People in Austin, Texas, and Collected Works in Santa Fe. I work with independent bookstores and all this kind of stuff.
You have the freedom.
And I have the freedom. And it's also the only way that you could come out with 4 books in this time period this fast. There's no publisher that would do that. Nobody would do that. And so my own publishing company is the only way that a story like this could have unfolded. There's no other way.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I've had to become a business person. I mean, I'm my own booking agent. I tell people I'm a full-time sales and marketing director, and I'm a full-time booking agent, and I'm a full-time performer, and I'm a full-time traveler because I drive myself there as well. And then online and social media,
right.
I joke, it's like, if you're bored, more power to you, but I don't understand you.
Yeah.
I don't remember being bored. I wake up in the morning, there's stuff to do.
Right. I think it's great for people to know that people who are artists are also many times they are business people. They are, very responsible and they understand. I mean, it's like you're self-employed, to a degree. And so you have to take care of all of these things. And I think that sometimes that's not perceived.
You are very self-employed. And what I will tell you is, I think, especially now, you take my friends in the music business down in Austin, all my music friends, they don't make money off of CD sales anymore because people don't buy music anymore.
They stream it.
Now they stream it. And even with Apple, like iTunes or whatever. I mean, I know my music. I know I sell music. You don't see the money from it. And so what I tell people is that because CD sales are almost gone, book sales are down. But what I tell people is like, the artist now, in order to survive, has to be a business person as much or more than they ever have at any point in history. You've got to get smart. And you guys, so I teach workshops. When I go somewhere, you want a reading at a library? Yes, I can do that. You want a house concert? I can do that. You want me to perform in a concert, just music in this hall over here? Yes, I can do that. Whatever it is you want, I can teach you a workshop on any songwriting, poetry writing, memoir writing. Well, I can, whatever that is. And that if I didn't have the multiple things that I can call on, I'd be in a lot of trouble right now. I would not be making it. And the other thing, and then that's what this is something I want to say to the people. It's like, you have no idea how much buying the artist's work means to the artist. I think we just sometimes forget. I don't think anybody's trying to be mean. I think we just forget. If you know someone who would love a book of poetry, buy it for them and give it to them for their birthday or for Christmas or something. But no matter what type of artist, visual, music, whatever it is, you have no idea how much buying their work means. It's a matter of survival.
Right. So what do you think will happen with music? I mean, how does someone make it? How do the small time performers, how do they make it? Will they be able to achieve that dream if there's not a really solid way for them to sell their music? What happens?
Well, the small timers are basically just vaudeville. I mean, they live. I know one guy, like one of the most amazing guitar players I've ever heard in my life. I was out in North Carolina, and he's really sharply dressed, incredible guitar player. And we got to talking one afternoon. He was living in a shack out in the hills of North Carolina without electricity, a potbelly stove, cuts his own firewood, has a generator, solar panels on the roof, blah, off the grid. What he did, he said, I decided that if I was going to do this, I wanted to make some money. And that if I was going to make money, that I was going to have to live like this. And this was the answer. So that's what he did.
Wow.
And I want people to know there are musicians who are, I know awesome folk musicians like the Appalachian Crowd with all these great young bands, whatever. Some of them are living in communities, supporting each other, like watching and taking care of each other's children while this group goes out on the road. A lot of people don't understand this culture is underneath it all. But basically what artists are doing is they're changing the way they live. One of the most famous poets you can name is Mary Oliver, who we lost recently. Mary Oliver lived incredibly ascetically. I mean, she did her own roof on her house.
Wow.
She just said it was an if-then argument for her. If I am going to do poetry, the least selling form of all genres in literature, then I will have to live like this. And she made her choice. I mean, she won the national. I mean, she's like a famous poet, that we have now. But on the music, the Midland people, so those, I told you the lower ones are having a lot of trouble, but even the mid-range, the people who aren't like stadium famous.
Taylor Swift.
But you take a James McMurtry, so the author Larry McMurtry, his son is one of my favorite songwriters in Austin right now. I would say he's that mid-range. He's known. He's pretty famous. He's well known, but he's not a stadium person. He's not, whatever. And I mean, he and I have talked about it straightforward. He said, I tour and I do it until I die. Ticket sales. That's the only thing that makes money anymore. People got to buy tickets and they have to come to your show.
People do like live music.
Right.
though.
And that's why I focus on house concerts.
Uh-huh.
It's a smaller, scaled down, much more intimate, much more meaningful, interactive kind of quiet performance. And what I tell people the magic of the house concert is you have fewer people and leave with much more meaningful fans. People who now really love what you do because they encountered you close up and they heard your story and they loved it. And I mean, I have done, the last couple of months, I finally got back out on the road, finally started doing house concerts again. And I made more money in the last 2 months than I made in 2021.
Wow. That's crazy.
House concerts.
House concerts.
Yeah. Donation at the door and then buy the books.
Right.
And yeah, it's amazing. And some of them ticket, small ticket, you know, like it's the tickets are blah, you know, whatever. And that goes well. And I gotta be honest with you. I might have had much smaller crowds than I wanted, but I've never had a negative experience with house concert. And I have with shows, PA systems or bad audiences or, you know, whatever. I don't remember a bad experience with a house concert. It's always been fun.
Right. I've been to one house concert that was here in Duncan. It was very fun.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's just kind of packed together, food, drink. Everyone's sitting around. It's just a very social.
It's a campfire.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, after some time of talking and visiting, then the performer sang and would tell a story about the song. You know, it's just, like you said, it was very intimate. It was really.
You just nailed it. I mean, that is my favorite thing to do. That's my favorite thing that I do professionally is that right there.
That is really great. So what about books? I mean, you said people aren't really buying books. I have to confess, I really like Audible.
Yeah.
I like, does that benefit an author if their book is on Audible?
You make much less.
Okay.
And it is something, however, that I've got to get into, but I can't technologically, I can't just do it on my own. I'm going to have help. I need somebody who can walk me through, okay, here's how this, and I have many people telling me, man, we want to hear you. I want to hear
I was
your
going to
voice.
say,
I want to hear you reading your poetry. And so I've got to do that first Audible book. And I know I've got to figure out audible.com. But what I have been noticing is when I do the smaller performances, more and more people buy the book. And a lot of people have been telling me they like buying poetry books because they want access to that poem. Like I want to go back to that one poem. And so I'm actually having more luck than many, I think, with selling poetry books. And I've done shows where I have sold out of books.
Of your books.
Oh, it just shocks me every time. Well, by the way, one time when that happened was a folk music festival. And I was there for the music festival. And at the big event at the very end, you know, I read a couple of poems in a couple of my shows, but the big event at the end, they had me come up and read a few poems on the big final day thing, whatever. And I got a standing ovation for the poems. Stepped down off the stage. 20 minutes later, the people from the product tent across the grounds came running up to me. It's like, we need more books. We are completely out. I had sold thousands of dollars worth of books at a music festival where I read 3 poems. So it's very weird. It's impossible to predict.
Right.
And you just have to keep bashing on. You just bash on. But right now, the house concert is working better for me than anything.
So I guess you don't have like concrete expectations. That has to be the only way you survive that. That's what you were performing at a music festival, but your book sold. You read poetry, but nobody buys a book. You just have to just go with the flow, I guess.
I'll tell you what I've stopped doing.
Yes.
Academic conferences.
Hmm.
You're not going to sell one book
Really?
at an academic conference.
Huh.
And here's the reason. Everybody at the conference wants you to give them your book, and they want you to buy theirs. It's a sick, self-defeating system. And I've stopped doing it altogether.
Yeah.
But you made a good point. When I go and do music events
Mhm.
and I read a few poems, I will sell books.
Mhm.
And when I go to poetry events and I bring the guitar and I play a couple of songs, I sell out of CDs at a book event.
Isn't that something?
The reason is you were the unexpected.
Right.
You were there, wow, I wasn't expecting that, and they just love it. And and it's a very common occurrence.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I've learned how to prepare.
Right.
Yeah.
Just load whatever in the back.
Right, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. People ask me how I fly, why I don't fly. You're driving all over you must go through cars and it's true, it's true, it's painful. But I tell this, I have boxes of books, boxes of CDs, 2 guitars. Well, if I were to fly like that, it would cost me 3 plane tickets every time I went anywhere. You can't afford that, and you've got to get it in the smallest, best gas mileage car that you can. And then you just got to go do it. Right. There's no way around it.
Right.
And,
wow. So, what's new? What's out there next? Do you have anything big, exciting coming up?
Well, out there next is I had my big fall. I'm kind of on the tail end because I love taking the kind of Thanksgiving, Christmas time a little easy.
Right.
I'm trying to book a couple of Christmas house concerts right now because I love Christmas music. And the book 4 in the pandemic series is just loaded with funny holiday poems and fun holiday poems. And I love to do Christmas music. So I'm trying right now to book a couple of Christmas house concerts, maybe for that first couple of weeks in December. And outside of that, I like to take that time slow. But the next stuff is poetry festivals, a lot of things. It starts in March. March and April. April is National Poetry Month. That's a big month for me, very important. I go all over, I'm already registering for festivals and stuff like that, but also like in mid to late April, we're looking at a Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington tour. So like I did East Coast this last year, so next year we go out to the West Coast and we drop with all the new books and you drive around and that kind of thing. And so you start the booking for that now. It's like, okay, I'm coming out mid to late April. When do you want to do something? And because when you get this town, then you have to go to work on that next town.
Right.
You have to go to work. Right. And it takes months to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I want to say before we're done, thank you to you for mentioning. I want to thank you for saying artists are hard workers. And they are really struggling, and they need your ears and your eyes and your appreciation. They need it because they're working hard, and they are working hard to make it. Their lives are more scaled down than you think. Most of them, great for Taylor Swift. Happy for that new house she just bought.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm fine. And that's a thing that exists. And that's another world. That's another planet.
Right.
Many of the artists that you love you don't realize how they're living and how hard they are working and what business people they really are. And I work year to year and a half in advance of getting ready for things.
I appreciate that. I think it's very insightful for you to give like the examples that you were giving because, if you were struggling like that and you were talking to me, you may not share that about your struggle because you're wanting people to know what, talk about what you've made or what you're, written, what your
Right.
songs and things like that. So, I'm glad that you shared that because I really feel like that is so important. And just like everything else, you run out, there are things at the grocery store that you can't find. There are things that you need for your home, but they don't have those in stock at the lumber yard or whatever.
Mhm.
It's the same way. That's all catch up
Mhm.
from what happened during the pandemic and the struggles for the performers and the artists. That has to still be in catch up mode. There's no way you would recoup 2 years
I've lost. No,
of loss
it's
like that.
the metaphor I give people is it's like trying to start a 200 car freight train. So people say, hey, pandemic's over, you're working again. No, no, it is not that simple. Because what it is, it's like now bookings. Well, I'm working on April right now. Just last night, I was working on April. Somebody I'm trying to get something lined up for, and imagine it's that train. You don't press the gas pedal on a 200 car freight train.
Right. Yeah.
Just
it takes a while.
And so many, I know many friends who I hate to say this, didn't really survive the pandemic. They didn't. They're busted, broke, working as baristas, and which is nothing wrong with that because I love baristas.
Right.
I appreciate them greatly, but I mean they're just waiting tables in their butt.
It's not their choice. It's not
what they were meant to do.
No, they're just
to do.
covering a need in their lives.
Right.
And so I mean that does make it it does make it's sad.
And I actually know one or two who basically just became homeless. Personally. I mean personally. No, a couple who just became homeless. They just had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do.
Right. Well, it's very fun to talk to you and just, I mean, not only have you been just continually creating poetry and music, but you were very creative in how you created it, finding a new source, a new avenue for your craft. And these books, I just think that this is one of the greatest, light bulbs ever.
I just, I have people that tell me now that they read them in rotation. Just because many of them are now who commissioned and have their names in the book or whatever are friends with these other people now who are, it's like another funny point of connection. I have a friend with a place out in Santa Fe, nice place, and he doesn't Airbnb. It's connection on like direct connection only, rents it, right? Or whatever. He now has 3 or 4 different regular renters from the Fire Pit Sessions video series. Because I did a few shows at the house in Santa Fe, his place in Santa Fe. And I told people the story and people contacted him and like, I'm wanting to come out to Santa Fe. How much is it for a week? And how much, whatever. And my friend is like, oh man, he's like, it's like, and because, everyone is struggling and he needs to rent that place to help, pay for that. I mean, because basics. So.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it really helped. So the Fire Pit Sessions helped my friend, with his place in Santa Fe. It's like, there's many, many neat stories that came out of this, this whole thing.
Right.
Changed me. And writing for other people, right, trying to speak for them has changed me permanently as an artist. I will never write the same exactly
Mhm.
again. Because having to do it for them instead of just sitting down and writing what I wanted to write about, I think that change is permanent.
That's a common thread that when I speak to artists, that there's always something that they are pushing themselves into that they know will make them better and help them grow and just broaden who they are.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was probably very kind of risky, not knowing you'd never written for someone, probably not like this.
No.
And
I mean, weddings,
yeah.
birthdays, I mean, but also fear, personal issues, heartbreak, lost marriages. I mean, everything.
So did they contact you and then you like do we're talking like an interview with them? Or did they just write?
They would write me an email or text or something, or, whatever, what they wanted a poem about. So let's take the obvious things like the George Floyd incident and the movements and the protests.
Right.
The election season of 2020 was an extraordinary 3 months in this country's history.
Right.
And I mean, the things that people asked poems for during those 3 months were just kind of hard to imagine. The things that they were wanting. People were upset. And I was helping people deal with emotions. I was helping people, and so, yeah, so yes, they would just say, and sometimes it would be write one about that, I had one person whose prompt was loneliness, and that's all they gave me. That was it.
Oh, my goodness.
I had people give me prompts that were photographs they had taken and gave me no words to go with it.
Wow.
I want you to write a poem about this photograph. A couple of those photographs appear in the books, by the way. So,
yeah.
And then some people gave me pages, and those are the hardest. Where I tell people, like, the shorter the prompt, the more I like it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so but it was a journey. It expanded me hugely as an artist. Taught me so much about speaking to other people. It taught me so much about audience, about having an audience. And what they're needing from you, not just what they're wanting, but what audiences need right now. We need to smile. Right. Laugh when we can. We need to be lifted up by the end of a show. We need to be singing. I have a song that I end all my house concerts with, and I'd say 9 times out of 10. Everyone in the room is singing it with me before I'm done. And sometimes, and often tears. Right. And I'm saying, and artists also need to, on their end, you need to consider not only what it is that people are dying for and need right now, you need to, as an artist, also start thinking about what they don't need and what doesn't help. As I jokingly say when I teach performance workshops to artists. Yeah. I'm looking at the camera. When I teach artists, like a lot of authors are terrible at reading their work. Well, these days you have to read your work to sell it. You have to go out and do it. I mean, anybody is going to tell you, even when they have the gold stickers on their books like she does, you have to go out and do it. And so I teach people who are writing, who are wanting to now sell their books. I teach them about performance and about being in front of people and things like that. And one of the chief things I tell people is when you're choosing what you're going to read from your book, when you're choosing the songs you're going to play, all these things, it's like the first and foremost thing you need to keep in mind is that people are already depressed and they don't need your help to have to increase their medication. So please do not get up there and kill us
Right,
and depress us with this dark, brooding section of your book.
right, yeah.
Please. They will then, if you can make them smile, do something.
Mhm.
Do something, because we're together now. Then they'll make the commitment to you and they will read your whole book
Mhm.
and they will deal with that section when they get to it.
Right.
But performance is a different thing altogether.
Mhm.
And you need to, we got to stop it with the darkness.
Right.
I've heard authors read things from their books that I just say, oh, why did they not put me home with that? It's like,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they feel like it's their most creative. This is where my creativity is really, I'm really showing, this is exposing but it may not be it may not be the best feel good selling
well,
part.
and it doesn't have to be superficial.
No.
But feeling good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
And oddly enough, many artists are the worst judges of their work.
Mhm.
You really should seek help from friends at least.
Right.
From friends at least, whatever. Now, the poems that I tend to read in concerts are a result of trial and error,
Mhm.
having done it in many concerts.
Mhm.
I know which ones to read out of these books now and which ones not to,
Mhm.
because a string of concerts has taught me, and response to the poems in the Fire Pit Sessions video series. It came to the surface. It's like, okay, when you do a house concert, you definitely want to read that one.
Mhm.
You want to read that one.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, and because you read them just in order, this is, then
Right,
that was the way they were flowing. There was no picking and choosing.
right,
You were able to get just a very honest response
Yeah.
to them.
right.
So,
And so and so to come back to your initial point, the business thing, it is, there are many artists who are not prepared for the diversity and amount of work they are going to have to do
mhm, mhm.
to make it in this particular realm these days.
Well, I feel like you've really shared just a lot of really great information
Oh,
today.
so
Are you on, I just have to know, are you still on Journal 117 or have you gone on to 118?
I am now on Journal 129.
129. So in a year,
Yes.
you filled 12 journals.
I have, yeah, it's right there, 129 in my bag there. Yeah, I'm on 129.
Wow, that's funny. So about how many poems are in each? I mean, I guess I could figure that out. What, like 30?
Different sizes.
Oh, okay.
So it's hard to gauge that.
Uh-huh.
But I get journals as gifts now a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes you'll go, this could be sometimes, and so a lot of time, it's just the journal itself that determines how much time you're going to spend on that one.
Right. Right.
So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you again so much. I mean, I really enjoy talking to you. I love picking your brain and hearing all these things you have to say.
I appreciate it.
And thank you for continuing to invest in the lives of the young people and trying to just give them an opportunity to find that creativity in themselves. It's so important. It's the future. And kids,
I agree.
not all kids get encouraged to find that creativity and for them to have an opportunity just a couple of hours away with someone they've never seen, who'll never see them again, maybe, to invest in them. I just feel like it's important.
I could see the light bulb coming on in a couple of faces just this morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming back. And whenever we sign off, we say happy trails together. So you ready?
All right.
Okay. Happy trails.
Right.